Well,
Thanks.
welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the
Hey.
podcast where we connect entrepreneurs or professionals that can help you go all in on your business. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate your time. It's very important to me and the audience to have these conversations and continue to learn. So, you're a part of that now, making our lives a little bit easier as business owners. So, I appreciate that very much. Like I said, our goal is connecting entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in your business.
Mm.
We interview people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, come out the other side with more knowledge, more expertise, more skills that continue to make growing their business a little bit easier. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you for being here. I appreciate it very much. It does mean a lot to me. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Okay. So my name is Midgie Framz. It's a nickname. Uh, I am an acupuncturist, licensed acupuncturist. I'm licensed in two states, Massachusetts and New Hampshire. I started out in Massachusetts I got licensed in 2011. I did go through a rigorous training master's program to get to be acupuncturist, and also I got licensed by the state of Massachusetts first. Lots of board exams, so lots of interning and sitting with other people, other professionals, other acupuncturists to see how um, it goes, to learn from, to mentor. And also, it's part of the requirement in becoming a licensed acupuncturist. When I graduated, I hit the ground running. I started working in a community clinic in Boston, which was very busy. I saw a lot of patients. And I also, in addition to that, I worked for myself. I started a practice myself. So I had a lot going on when I first became an acupuncturist. I just wanted to treat and get as much experience as possible. Working, like I said, with collaboration with others, also having a private practice, which meant doing all the marketing and things like that by myself. And I also had some part-time work. I was a bookkeeper in my past life. So if I can back up for a second, what brought me to before acupuncture, I was actually my undergrad was accounting.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's much different. It still, spells with AC, but accounting, acupuncture. But anyway, that was my undergrad. And when I was in my 20s, getting, my first my job out of college, I didn't love what I did. I learned I had a bunch of corporate jobs. I went from one job to the next. I got very bored in the corporate world pretty easily. And I knew that I wanted to um, run something. And I knew I was always interested in I like to say complementary medicine, more preventative medicine, helping people just be healthier, change their diets, um, stress management techniques. I was really interested in that. But I found myself in the corporate world, and which was good. It wasn't all bad for me. I didn't have super bad experiences. I think it taught me how to be productive, taught me how to, there's a lot of skills you can get from the corporate world. So at some point in my 30s, I said, I would love to go to acupuncture school, but it was a lot of money. It was a lot of time commitment. You have, so I postponed it a couple times. At one point, I got my MBA because a company I was working for paid for it. So, um, what I did was when I got this MBA business school, I started doing I'm sorry, entrepreneurship classes. So I did entrepreneurship for marketing, marketing for entrepreneurships, for small businesses, how to do financing for small business. I took all classes on that and I loved it. And when I finished the MBA program, irony is I was laid off from my corporate job.
Mm.
So then I decided, well, I'll go to school to be a health coach. So that was my first interest in being an entrepreneur, if you will. So I became a health coach and I started marketing myself as a health coach. And I learned what it took to do some marketing. Found out that wasn't so easy. Somehow, serendipitous, I started bookkeeping. And I started bookkeeping for small businesses. I did bookkeeping for a hypnotist, which was a lot of fun. I did bookkeeping for people like, like a Jamba Juice. They were opening a Jamba Juice. I don't know if you remember those back then.
Mm-hmm.
Various different types of small business owners. And I loved that. I loved that energy. I love, there's just that passion that entrepreneurs had. So that was me. I did that. And then I kept saying, well, health coaching, I like it, but I'm not sure. So I just personally, I had the time and I made the commitment to go to acupuncture school. Boom, loved that. And that's where I still am today. So when I did it took me 4 years to finish my acupuncture program. I worked part time. I'm sorry, I worked full time and did acupuncture school part time for the first 3 years. That helped, and I would recommend that for a lot of people because it kept the cost down. I was able to work and maintain an apartment, and so it was tough. I'm not going to say, it was very busy, but I chose in my last year with acupuncture school, I chose to quit my corporate kind of jobs that I had that were sustaining me, and I went full time. And because it was great to immerse myself in all the internship possibilities, I studied for my board exams and I got my license. Uh, so that's kind of where I got the background to where I got my license. So fast forward, like I said, I worked in I worked in multiple places. When I first got my license, I started a private practice. So I was a business owner. I worked in collaboration with some other groups, and I still had one bookkeeping client. So as time went on, I slowly got rid of I ended the bookkeeping client. So I did all acupuncture. Then slowly, the community acupuncture that I worked, the group collaborative program I was part of, I stopped doing that because that was a lot of commitment. And I also had started my own community clinic that was just on the weekends. I also worked in a corporate gig. I canceled all of those eventually, and I streamlined it to one private location so I could focus on one location. And that was just my process. I know that other acupuncturists do just one private practice and are all in. That just wasn't my process, and I'm okay with it. I felt like I did what was right for me. And so there were other people that do that as well, did, the method that I did. And I think, if I were to do it all over again, I'd probably do the same thing, so I'm glad that I did what I did for me. So I think that's important for people to get and understand. So what happened? You were talking about some of the pitfalls that, challenges that I mean, now I've been a practitioner, a licensed practitioner, 12 years. I like to say I really started being an entrepreneur since 2002. So that's 22 years, I guess. Time
Sure.
flies, right?
Sure. Well,
But
there's
yeah,
an exchange that happens when you go from like I think your mind gets conditioned in a certain way when you spend enough time in school or doing internships or in that learning phase to like there's kind of a transitional period to putting that entrepreneur hat on, right?
yeah,
And taking it from one location to two locations, being able to find employees that you can trust to represent your business the way that you would. All of those things are very difficult. But what's kind of been your superpower? Like, what's been the thing that you guys have been doing very well that's led you to, the success that you've received so far?
sure, sure. I think the biggest thing is, I say for me, is customer service, and I'm in a very strong customer service kind of business anyway. My biggest patient retention is high. I have very high repeat patients that come back to me. I have my numbers are high. I was just looking at it like a couple weeks ago. Um, I'm also one of the things you mentioned, like instead of being a small business, I have kind of a one person show, one female show, right? I haven't hired too many people. I haven't hired other acupuncturists. I'm thinking about it, and that's a future growth idea for myself. Um, I have I have outsourced. I've over the years I've learned to outsource different different areas. It's like, so for example, bookkeeping. I said that I was a bookkeeper in the past. I love doing my own books, but 2 years ago, I said, you know what? I can outsource this. I already know how to do it. I don't really need to do it. I can spend my time with my patients and earn more, obviously. And
Sure.
that's what I like to do. That's my core competency. So some of my superpowers, I would say, definitely is the customer service, customer retention. My first priority is to my patients. I am looking up things for my patients constantly. I am better served doing that. So I focus on my clinical more so than the business aspect. Obviously, I have to run the business as well, but I try to outsource that when I can.
Sure.
So I read that great book like a year ago, like no, what is it? The Who, not How. Loved that.
Hmm.
Yes, that's it. That's it. So I do that a lot. I think about that a lot.
Sure. That's a tough thing to do is relinquish things that you know you're good at because you have to trade that time for other things that make your business healthy. I think that's learned entrepreneur behavior. And to go back to what you were talking about school a little bit, is like there's really two ways to learn entrepreneurship, right? Really, with our goal for the podcast to kind of present a third option in the way that technology works now, right?
Yeah.
Traditionally, it's either start a business and learn in this trial by fire method where you experience things that are really difficult and you overcome them at the drop of a hat, like some of the most keen entrepreneurs that I know do. Is they come up with a really good idea and they know that they'll work hard to do right by people, and they kind of experience those things over time. The other of that being school, and I think one of the most important things about school, because I was like you, my undergrad was accounting, right? And that quickly turned into sales for me later in life, because doing the same thing for 30 years is a hard thing to wrap your head around at 22. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, um, I began my sales career in a very similar way, where my education was kind of the background for a lot of those things, because I learned from the experience of other highly successful entrepreneurs about the things that they were doing that made them successful, right?
Right.
Even more so, you learn about what they did wrong that almost cost them everything, and how they bounced back from those things. So, like,
Yeah.
the education aspect of that thing is very important, and not to say that there's one correct way to do it, because I think you pay for those things in different ways, whether it be school or finding those things out through the course of life. But it's not easy for anyone. It's definitely not easy to learn to juggle those hats back and forth. So what have been some of the obstacles that you guys have overcome along the way? I mean, it doesn't seem like you've added a tremendous amount of people. You've definitely kept your focus on making sure that the people that are spending money with you are happy. So what has been difficult for you over this? How long did you say it was? 12 years, I guess, since you've opened your private practice. Is that right?
Yeah. 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 And now I'm on, let's see, 14 years now.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, 14 years. And I still have that private practice. I also moved to another state. So I opened an additional private practice, and I do run simultaneously both of them. Um, the two biggest challenges, obviously, COVID was a huge problem for us. It was huge. So we rely on being open, being with people. I do a lot of health coaching, and I'm an herbalist. So I can do things online, but to convince my patients to go online and talk to me still about their health and not get acupuncture was a very difficult hurdle, and to not be in the office. And I had a lot of patients not wanting to wear a mask, or it wasn't comfortable to get acupuncture wearing a mask, or they weren't comfortable just coming into the office, because I had, a lot of older clientele, or clientele that immune compromised, and they didn't want to come in. So that was a huge problem with our business. So we have, as a collective, like a group, a profession, acupuncturists, I think we've learned to try to diversify our income as much as possible in some ways. That's not just patient driven, time based on our being there, and financial resiliency, right? Um, how to weather the storm, how to budget better, so that if we do have, say you have 10 people booked and 5 cancel, how do that's lost revenue. How do you make up for that? How do you make up for going on vacation? That's part of I think with any entrepreneur, right? But that's been a big challenge, and I've been working on that still. That's ongoing. It's definitely better. I think I collaborate with a lot of other acupuncturists. We have different kinds of mentor groups. Our state each has organizations that we are part of. So there's a lot of people, thankfully, Facebook, there's tons of Facebook groups for our profession, and we're pretty good at helping and supporting others. So, yeah, those are some of the biggest challenges, and they are still challenges, but they do get easier over time. I'm getting a lot better at bookkeeping and sorry, budgeting. Um, the other challenge that I have is being a business owner and a clinician at the same time. And that's a nuance for our profession, I think. So it's finding that balance. Um, so I think I've been doing it pretty, it's like I said, it's a challenge, but I think I get better at it each year. And
Sure.
yeah,
Well, some people don't learn that until they have 30, 40, 50 employees. You know what I mean? How to take off a week of work, or
yeah,
how to trust that your business is going to not be burned down when you go out
yeah,
of town for a week.
yeah.
Additionally, beyond that is like, I think it is a nuance to your profession to have that responsibility for your client's health, and also be balancing that with your responsibility to run a profitable business for you and the people that are close to you, right? And I think a lot of people, like when you start out early on in business, it is very easy to like take the approach of dropping your prices to rock bottom and hoping that you can gain clients. And if I sell it for less expensive, or I make this product cheaper, or whatever that may, it makes it more. Um, I think you can sell it with a little bit more conviction. And a
Mm,
lot of entrepreneurs, we've talked about this in the past, is that you have that responsibility to yourself to make sure that the services that you're rendering with people are profitable for you, because you have to think about value rather than an exchange of currency, right? It's like, okay, what is the value for you? The value is not the service. The value is the feeling better in the rest of my life for the rest of the time after I have your service, right? Like it's a very unique thing when it comes to being able to price in a way that is good for you but also good for your patients, right? And I always reinforce the idea that one of your superpowers can just be really believing in the value of your product or service. So if you're one of those people that's like, oh, I have to be cheaper than everyone else, is your work worse than everyone else? You
mm,
know, like, is it hard for you to provide the same value as other people? Because if that answer is not true, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs with that close relationship with their clients can probably provide a better service at a more affordable rate. So if you're kicking around the idea of like, oh, I don't know how to start my business because I can't figure out the pricing, I don't know what to charge people, like,
mm,
charge people what you feel like you're worth. You know what I mean? What you feel like that value of walking around and feeling healthier is. You know, to speak a little bit of your industry, or whatever that may be in any industry. You know, just the fact that. If I run an automotive shop, I can price in a way because I know the value is people being able to ride around with the peace of mind that someone takes care of their vehicle that cares about it, right? Like I think that's learned behavior from everyone, and it's another one of those things that you really have to get used to pricing in a way that reflects the value of the service that you're providing for someone, even if it takes you 5 minutes. Right? It really depends what the value is. So,
oh, sure.
how do people get a hold of you if they want to buy something from you? If they have questions from you? If they,
So
whatever they want to pick your brain, how do they find you?
yeah, so I have a website, Better Life Acupuncture. Yeah,
Yeah.
betterlifeacupuncture.com. I am in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. I do uh, I do take insurance. So that's been, we didn't talk about that, but that's been another challenge for me because it adds an administrative burden. So again, it goes to outsourcing as much as possible when I can. So I can, work on my core competency of the customer service and the clinic piece. And not get bogged down by it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so a lot of people, if they're local to me, they can go on their local directory and see if they have insurance benefits. I don't take all insurance because I just can't. I've learned which
Sure.
one like to take and not because I just can't. That's a balance of that I'm always working on as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the way that we always in the podcast here is talking a little bit about the name, right? The name of the podcast is Burn the Ship. And
Mm.
I think a lot of the audience are people that are either in those first year or two of business, or they're the people that are constantly 6 months away from starting their business and kicking the can down the road, trying to understand what it takes for them to
Yeah.
feel like it's going to go well whenever they
Yeah.
start it, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people that we interview are people that are, frankly, normal people, right? People
Uh,
that found a
yeah.
place in their life to make that jump into entrepreneurship and were willing to go through the trials and tribulations that it takes to run a successful business. So
Yeah.
my question is this, right? And from your point of view, what does it feel like to burn the ship? What does it feel like to go all in on being a business owner? What kind of gratification has that unlocked in your life? And why should other people that are seeking that same feeling take the chance on themselves?
Yeah, I can tell you what I love is the freedom, and it's the autonomy. It's my and I, when I was a teenager, I just for some reason I wanted to run my own business and I just didn't know what it was. I just knew something health, it was kind of vague, but I just, and that's why I did bookkeeping for other entrepreneurs. I loved that you can just, you make it. So you make your life, you make your business can reflect you, your personality, right? Um, I People come to see me, patients and people, because they click with me. Not everybody will. Some people, it's like, I don't know, the hairstylist, right? You're going to click with certain people that you like how they do your hair. Same thing with like a personal trainer, or, there's many industries you can use that example, but I click with certain people and I want to help those people that I can. So I think I do like my hands in everything. I like to have, the marketing comes from me. The way my clinic looks, my pictures on my wall, I've chose them. I've kept my business small. I haven't, like I said, I haven't hired acupuncturists. I've outsourced different business process, like business functions that I need help with. Um, but I've kept my practice small the way I like it. So I think what I would say is you can really craft it to have it work for you. That's a challenge. Make you run your business, not your business run you, right? There's that saying.
Sure.
So, did that always happen in the beginnings for for your listeners that are just starting out? Um, it took a little while, but I think it was still my passion, my interest. I did community acupuncture. I chose that because I liked it. I didn't work, there's some other avenues that I could have went. I could have done more home care visits. I could have maybe worked at another facility, but I chose that community and the the private practice. I chose those locations too to work in. So I got to do a lot more choosing. And I think that's what you don't get with, because I've worked in corporate and had other full-time jobs. My boss is me, right? Yes, my patients are my bosses too. I work for them, but I'm still the boss. So
Right.
I like the way that I'm crafting my life. So I hope that
Sure.
answers that.
No, it definitely does. I mean, and I think that from an entrepreneur perspective, sometimes it's hard to see that, right? Like sometimes you're just in that mode where it just feels like the things that are happening in your business are out of your control, right?
Mm,
Like you may have a bad experience with a client, or you may have a bad experience with a vendor, or something in your personal life may happen that makes
yeah.
business more difficult for you. It's not always going to be easy, but at the end of the day, you do kind of control your own fortune compared to the type of control that you would have in a corporate setting, right? I think that is one
Yeah.
of the most alluring things about small businesses is that it is genuinely a bet on yourself. And if you know yourself better than everyone, than anyone, I would assume that most people do, is that you can make that decision where you're that type of person that can take that accountability to make your business successful. Because I promise you, if I can do it, if the owner of my company can do it, if a lot of people that we've had on the podcast can do it, it's not, a lot of times it's not because of years and years of schooling, or it's not because of, um, whatever that catalyst may be. It's because they value their relationships with the people that they're doing business with. And I encourage you to keep that in the forefront of your mind. I've been saying it on the podcast for a while. That's why we've been speaking to people all over the country, is because I think when you get outside these big metropolitan areas, that the number one focus you'll see over and over again from a lot of the businesses that we're interviewing is that they're very customer focused. They're very focused on the experience of their clients, and they're very focused on delivering a quality product where the value is super high. So
Yeah.
keep those things in mind. If you know you can do a good job for people, I highly encourage you to reach out to me or reach out to anyone else that's been on the podcast. Pretty much everyone is an open book as far as the things that they did to help their business get off the ground. So
Yeah.
I hope that this podcast has been beneficial to you all in the audience. Thank you again, Midgie. I appreciate you coming. If you have anything else to leave the people with, any quotes or last thoughts, the floor is yours. But I've asked the questions that I have, and this has been Burn the Ship, and we'll edit it over a couple of weeks and we'll put it out there to the world, and you can have access to everything that we have too. So again, I appreciate it very much.
Thanks. Thank you. If anybody wants to ask me, get in touch with me about just entrepreneurship questions, I would love to speak with any newbie out there, or anybody not newbie, but just have questions. I'd definitely be worth, I'd be happy to speak with you. You can just, I guess the best way is to go on my website, and there's a contact me page on my website. It's just betterlifeacupuncture.com, and it's Midgie, Midgie. So they can just send me an email through there, and I'm happy to talk to you. Or if if you have any particular questions. So thank you for being part of Burn the Ship. This is great. There's a
Well,
lot
I
of
appreciate that. Anytime we can get another voice on the podcast and ask the questions that people are asking us, we find it super beneficial. Like this whole thing was kind of inspired by COVID, when nobody knew what the future of small business was like. And, this was our way of trying to give people some solace and some support as far as being able to answer those questions. And now here we are, 300 and something episodes later, and you're a part of that family now. So, like I said, it really does mean a lot. And until next time, we'll speak again soon, okay? All
Okay, thank you.
right, cool. Burn the ship.